insight into what she's planning? Go for it.
I don't know if I have any insight, but if they are listening to me or Doug or anyone else, I would say you cannot get into a pissing match with Donald Trump because he just brings a more full bladder. I mean, you have to be magnanimous. You have to be presidential. You have to disregard him as being petty, as being small. And she has to reassure the American people that she is not the chaos that Donald Trump brings. I think it's going to be a very good night for her, regardless of the spin afterwards. I think people are going to see a clear contrast. I mean, that's what I expect. Just be magnanimous. Make him look as small as possible. That shouldn't be that difficult.
She's going to look very liberal, and that's hard to be small when you're very liberal. I think you've seen the polls recently that came out today, even the polls that came out last week. She's not the change agent, and she's now being viewed as radically liberal. That's what Donald Trump's going to talk about. He's going to compare his record as president to Joe Biden's record as president and just show how dangerously liberal these policies have affected everyday families. And you'll probably see the most content heavy with respect to policy that we have ever seen in a debate. I think we're probably going to have a record.
From whom?
From Trump. The record is clear. He wins the economic record, he wins the immigration record, and he's going to talk about those things. And families are suffering. I mean, families are struggling to make payments every month. Families are extending their credit as a direct result of this Biden administration. The country wants change, and they don't think she's the change.
All right, guys, welcome back. And you already know the big showdown is tomorrow. Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. Now, I've got to say, Lanza hit the nail on the head when he said Kamala is going to come across as a total liberal. And not just any liberal, but one with the record that's going to be hard to hide. All the media spin won't save her like this time because Trump's strategy is clear. Draw a stark contrast between the failures of the Biden-Harris administration and his own presidency from 2016 to 2020. Let's start with Kamala record. She's been part of an administration that's seen inflation soar, border security crumble, and foreign policy blunders left and right. The numbers don't lie. Under the Biden-Harris administration, inflation hit a 40-year high with the cost of living spiraling out of control for everyday Americans. And when it comes to the border, well, Harris was the so-called border czar, yet illegal crossing hit a record numbers. Just the facts. This is just the facts. And Trump has to bring it home tomorrow. Trump, on the other end, needs to keep it simple. During his presidency, we saw a strong economy, historic tax cuts, and a more secure border than ever before. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect, but when you put his record up against the chaos we've seen in the past few years, the contrast is clear. And in tomorrow's debate, if Trump can focus on these key areas, economy, border security, and international standing, he is going to walk away with a win. Kamala is going to have a tough time defending policies that have left a lot of Americans worse off. And Trump just has to stick to the facts, and the contrast will speak for itself.
Well, and the reality is you shouldn't underestimate Donald Trump. He's now done more presidential debates, I should say, than anyone in history. And he's somebody who came up on television. He's a communicator. He's somebody who's used to speaking to a mass audience. If he can stay focused and he stays to the core issues, economy, border, it's a good night for him. But we've also seen the world in which he shouts out the Proud Boys, or he talks about Hannibal Lecter, or he gets into name calling. That could go against him. To Kamala Harris, she needs to look presidential. We're incredibly backwards as a country that we've never had a female president. So for a lot of people, seeing somebody up there who's a woman who might be our first female president, she needs to seem commanding. She cannot get too in the weeds on policy. She needs to talk about it, but can't get sidetracked. Big picture, how will you demonstrably make people's lives better? How will you turn the economy around? If she can do that and not get rattled by Donald Trump, it'll be a good night for her.
Offense, offense, offense for the Harris team. It's not about prosecuting a case against Trump. It's about her talking about the issues that middle-class families care about.
It looks like the Harris camp is now scrambling to lower expectation ahead of the big debate tomorrow night. Remember all the bold talk? Say it to my face, and I know Donald Trump's type. They were all hyping it up like it was going to be a courtroom showdown. Kamala Harris, the prosecutor, versus Trump, the convicted felon, which is not, by the way. But now the narrative has shifted. Suddenly, it's not about prosecuting Trump. It's all about Kamala looking presidential. Come on, man. Like, we know what it is. It's damage control, plain and simple. Why this sudden shift? Well, it's clear they're nervous. The Harris campaign wanted a repeat of the Mr. President, I'm speaking moment from her debate with Mike Pence. I'm hoping for some viral soundbite magic. But here's the kicker. They agreed to these debate rules that were set when Biden was the nominee. They're locked in now. And they don't get a chance to change game because they're realizing that Harris may be in big trouble, pretty much. Trump, on the other hand, agreed to more debates where whether it's on Fox News or NBC. Kamala, not so much. She did not. So she can't really complain about the mic being on and off or having her hands tied because there are more opportunities, more debates open or out there that she can agree on and negotiate more rules. The problem here is that the Harris team is backpedaling fast because they're starting to see this debate could be a disaster for her. They are lowering expectation in the hope that if she doesn't completely crash and burn, they can call it a win. But let's be real. If they're already making excuses, that tells you like pretty much everything you need to know about how they think things are going to go. And in tomorrow's debate, all eyes are going to be on whether Kamala can keep up or if she will crumble under the pressure. My guess, if they're already downplaying it, like it's because they know it won't be pretty. But that's just my thought. Let me know what you think.
How do we grow the middle class? How do we strengthen the middle class? When I've looked at a lot of testing on ads and in her convention speech, when she's talking about middle class families and their goals for the future, she does exceptionally well. And framing this about the future versus the past is going to be very important for her. Trump is a very unpredictable debater, to say the least. But what typically happens with him is he starts actually fairly disciplined. After 15 minutes, he goes back to chaos, and he wants to create a chaos situation in this debate. And then sometimes he runs out of gas. I've seen that in both his Republican debates and against Biden. If she can control the thermostat in that room, if she can control the argument, if she can talk to the American people, almost put Donald Trump aside, she will win. And I think she has the discipline to do that. I think she did that in her convention speech.
Okay, so you all have advice and predictions. I want to read to you what Hillary Clinton, who's, as you said, debated him 3 times during the 2016 race, said in an interview, which to me was just remarkable that she talked about this so openly on the record. She, of course, Harris, just should not be baited. She should bait him. He can be rattled. He doesn't know how to respond to substantive direct attacks. When I said he was a Russian puppet and he just sputtered on stage, I think that's an example of how you get out a fact about him that really unnerves him.
I mean, that's so true. And that's why I kind of laughed when my good friend Brian talked about the fact that it's going to be policy substantive. I mean, direct attacks against who he is, not only the character of the man, which we know is lacking, but also where he lacks substantively on policy. We just heard this week a response on how are you going to do affordable child care. That response made absolutely no sense to anyone. It didn't make sense to our children, right? I mean, it was just a word salad. He is diminished. He's not the same person he was even when he debated Hillary Clinton. And the fact is this, if you take out Joe Biden of the last debate that they had, you have the second worst debate in American history. The problem is Joe Biden was probably the worst debate in American history.
I think the struggles that Harris has with this is, when you start playing in the mud with Donald Trump and sort of, being that aggressive, being offense and throwing these insults that they want to do, you're now in the mud with us. and we're very comfortable being in the mud. And we're very comfortable.
I love that you own that, Brian.
It's just we are. It's where we are in politics. It is the mud, and we're very comfortable being in the mud. And the way I see Harris has to win is she almost has to be the opposite of Trump, right? She can't play the dirty games. She can't do the fake news. She can't do all these things that sort of we've excelled at over the years. That's changed politics. Because if she goes in there and comes out with the white suit of sort of not lowering your, as you say, to our game, that is a win for her.
What do you mean?
Lanza made a solid point again when he said that if you try to play dirty against Trump, you're just feeding into his strength. It's almost funny, like, the man thrives on chaos. So you start bringing up things like his past accusations, throwing an insult or trying to demean him, and that's exactly where he wants the fight to go. It's like stepping into the mud with a pig. You're both going to get dirty, but Trump's the one who enjoys it, And let's be honest, Kamala Harris might just try to pull the same tactic, hoping for a viral Mr. President, I'm speaking moment. But here's the issue. It's going to backfire. Trump is not Mike Pence. You got to remember that. Trump is not Mike Pence. And he's a seasoned debater who's been in the ring more than any president in recent history. Even Democrats are admitting now that Trump's got experience. But you can see the panic setting in with all these excuses popping up about why Harris might struggle tomorrow. Look, if Kamala goes after Trump personally, it's only going to work in his favor. It will double down, hit back even harder, and she'll be left trying to pick up the pieces. It's a losing strategy. And the fact that they're already lowering expectation tells you they're nervous. Tomorrow's debate is going to be a tough one for Harris, no doubt. But that's my take, and I would love to hear yours. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Stay tuned.